Ooh, I have this one. Path of Exile 2 early access. No early access. Path of Exile 2 early first impressions from a veteran player. So this dude knows about Path of Exile. He's called Oroboro. So let's see what he has to say. This video was sent to me by a viewer, the DM. He also makes videos awesome. So let's see what the DM's corner, if you want to check it out. Let's see what the Oroboro has to say in here, dude.
Hey guys, Oro here, and today I'm going to share my early first impressions on Path of Exile 2.
Nice.
I was fortunate enough to get invited out to LA by Grinding Gear Games, the developers, to play 8 hours of an early build of Path of Exile 2, and it was an absolutely incredible experience. Again, all the footage you're seeing is a work in progress and does not represent the final game. Path of Exile 1 is easily the greatest ARPG of all time, and the sequel is already looking to surpass it in almost every way.
Nice.
For those of you who don't know, I'm a huge Path of Exile fan. I've been playing since the closed beta and put over 4,000 hours into the game. I also have a unique item inside of the game, a two-handed sword called Oro's Sacrifice.
Nice.
Anyways, let's talk about my experience.
That is insane, bro.
First off,
by the way, I don't know if you guys saw that Queen got the thing from the box, and now he's going to design a unique for the game. That is insane. We are going to have a Queen unique inside the game, brother. That is going to be some bleed bullshit for sure.
if you've played the first game, I think you're gonna love the second. And if you're a new player, then Path of Exile 2 is a perfect game to start. They simplified and streamlined a lot of the overcomplicated systems for newer players, making it much easier to get into than the first game. Personally, I'm a little mixed on this, but I think overall it's for the best. Now, in my play session, I mainly played the warrior class. One of 12 classes you'll be able to choose from when the game releases.
So he played the class that I want to try the most. That is, so this matters more to me, his opinion, because he played the class that I want, that I will probably try the first. I am between the mercenary and the warrior, but I am leaning more towards the warrior right now.
Releases. With each class comes 3 different ascendancies, which are like their own classes entirely. And in Path of Exile 2, they grant unique skills as well. In early access, there will be only 6 classes and 2 ascendancies per to start, with more coming, quote unquote, very soon. There's
Basically,
also only 3
classes.
acts out of the planned 6 of them.
By the way, the class that I was most excited in general was the Huntress, because it is like a survival hunter in WoW. It is like the hunter with the spear. But the Huntress is not coming with this first build. So I am really excited for when that comes out, because that is the class that I want to try the most. And after that, the Druid. And the Druid isn't coming out either. So the 2 classes that I wanted to try the most are not coming out with early access, but it doesn't matter. They will come out eventually. But for the ones that are coming out, the Mercenary and the Warrior.
A moment, which means that they're adding another difficulty. So instead of going through the 6 acts planned, you'll have to go through acts 1 through 3 again at a harder difficulty. They said they wanted to focus on the end game before finishing the other acts. And I'll be going over the end game later in this video. Spoilers, it's really cool. Path of Exile 2 launches in early access December 6th. And if you want access, you'll have to buy a supporter pack, with the cheapest one being $30. You can also just wait for them to finish the game, in which case it will be free to play just like the first game. They said they're about 80% done with the rest of the content and will be updating the game frequently, and that it'll be finished soon. This footage you're looking at is taken from...
That is good to know, and I hope that they add the Huntress soon. I hope that they add the Huntress very soon, or the Druid. The Huntress or the Druid very, very soon.
The PC version of the game. Now, to talk about the gameplay itself, it feels incredible. It is much slower than Path of Exile 1, but much more methodical in the way you need to approach combat. Every single attack matters. There's also the addition of dodge rolls, which allow you to reposition very quickly, and they're on a small cooldown and give no iframes. Sorry, Dark Souls gamers. I found them near mandatory to use for most boss fights. And speaking of boss fights, the boss fights in Path of Exile 2 are next level. All of them have...
Brother, this is so good to hear, because you guys know that the thing that I am most excited for in PoE 2 is bossing. You guys know that I love bossing. One of my favorite games, Cuphead. Why do I love Cuphead? Because the entire game is just bossing. You know that in Cuphead, the platform levels are optional. You don't have to do them. You only have to do the first one because with that you buy some bullshit in the shop. I never do the platform things because they are optional. You don't have to do them. And I just do the bosses. I have cleared all the bosses, but I have not cleared all the platform levels because who cares about those, you know? Why am I saying this about Cuphead? Because just so you know that I love bossing. And one of the things that I always criticize about Diablo 4 is that in Diablo 4 there is no bossing. Don't give me these tormented bosses or uber bosses bullshit. You just one-shot those and you don't care about anything. There is no cool bosses in Diablo 4. Uber Lilith is a fucking joke. Nobody cares about that and the fight sucks dick. So I want cool bosses. And when I saw that that PoE2 was surrounding the bossing activity, I said, this is for me, brother. And now he's saying that the fights are awesome. That hypes me up, brother. That hypes me up.
Different attack patterns and moves that you must learn to survive. Every single boss is incredibly challenging, and you can't just portal to refill your health and flasks like you can in Path of Exile 1. Trust me, I tried. You have to go in with what you have, which means limited flasks and no escape.
Careful with that, hardcore players. Careful with that, my dudes.
I feel like this makes it much more difficult than the first game, but 1,000 times more rewarding. Overcoming each boss and learning their patterns was extremely satisfying. And not only was it satisfying, it was rewarding as well. Each boss gives a huge bonus, such as a step towards a new gem slot or a passive point on the skill tree. I was told there's 30 bosses in early access and there will be 100 when the game is finished. The quality and presentation of...
And I tell you right now, when they say there are 30 or there are 100, there are 100 different bosses. They are not going to pull the Diablo 4 bullshit where they said, no, we have 120 dungeons. But in reality, there were like 20 dungeons and everything else was just a copy paste. Like, that is bullshit. In here, they are not doing that. I guarantee you, those are 100 different bosses, my dude.
Each boss actually blew me away. It was kept up throughout the entire 8 hours. So to me, this is the absolute best part of Path of Exile 2. Similar to the bosses, each area was a joy to explore. The graphics are incredible. The art design, sound design, the characters, the voice acting, the atmosphere, all of it were just so good. You can tell that they poured a lot of love into this game, even more than the first game, and it shows. Now I want to talk about the simplification and streamlined systems of Path of Exile 2, something I'm a little mixed on. Now, a good first example is that you no longer need to use jeweler orbs to roll for sockets or chromatic orbs for colors on your skills.
Nice. I love that. I am a newbie in PoE, but I know that in PoE you use, in PoE 1, you socket the skill gems into your gear. And if your gear doesn't have the color of the skill that you want to use, then you can't put the skill in there. That is annoying. And on top of that, if you want to link a supporter skill, you need to have it linked. And then if you don't have it linked, it also don't work. So it is a pain in the ass to get the setup. And people gamble with orbs to get the setup. And that is annoying, brother. And I am so grateful and so satisfied and so cool that they are getting rid of that dog shit system. And there is someone going to be pissed at me because I am saying that that is dog shit. But brother, that sucks dick. So I am so glad. And they are scrapping it because they know that it sucks, that it is annoying, and it is creates a lot of friction towards the player and a lot of friction towards new players. And that is why they are getting rid of it. So good decision, great decision. Thank you very much, GGG, for that decision, my dude.
Be good. Skills are all just placed inside of a skill book, and you unlock more sockets naturally by playing through the game and defeating bosses.
Love it.
All the sockets in your skill book are colorless, so you can socket in whatever gems you'd like at any time. Awesome. I think this is one of the best changes because now when I find a better gear, I can just equip it right away.
Exactly, he agrees with me, brother. You are on point on this one. This is the way. This is the way.
I don't have to worry about if I have enough currency to roll it and make it work with my specific gem setup. Now, an example of a change I don't love. Each of the 12 classes in the game focuses on one specific weapon. And that specific weapon has specific skills that can only be used with that weapon type. For example, Cyclone can now only be used with an axe. In Path of Exile 1, you can use almost any weapon with any skill, which created near infinite build variety. I'm worried that this change in Path of Exile 2 will dramatically decrease the amount of viable builds for each skill.
I understand where he's coming from, and it is true. It is true. What he's saying is completely true. But at the same time, I do like it. I like... I am sorry. I like that they tie the skill to the weapon. I am one of those OCD nerds that like when things make sense, right? So it makes sense that a slam is tied to a mace, right? So I like that change. And not also only because of that. I have to think that they also wanted to create cool animations that didn't make sense if you didn't have the weapon. For example, if you are playing an slam again, it doesn't make sense to do the animation that they have shown where the dude go blah 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 and you are with a crossbow. It doesn't make sense, right? How do you do that animation? So I have to think that that also takes part in there. And as a new player, I also like the reduced pool of combinations, and there is still going to be a lot of possible combinations in combinatorics. Just the amount of combinations that they have right now, it is already insane. But knowing that I don't have to think about, oh, if I can use another weapon, I have a bigger pool of things that I could be using, and maybe I am not using the one thing that I need to use, and it is insane. But now, if I am using a slam and they are maces, my pool of possible things is smaller because I am now just looking at maces. So to me, it is a better change. But I completely understand where he's coming from. Moreover, if he's already used to this system because he played PoE 1, and I understand whoever likes it more that you can use any skill with any weapon. But I personally like when not only PoE 2, in any game, when they say to use this skill, you need this weapon. I like that system. I like it. Also because of the class element, and this is not in PoE 2. But for example, in WoW, for the rogue, there are some skills that you need a dagger to use, or you need a sword to use. I think it makes sense not only from a mechanical perspective, but also from a fantasy and role-playing perspective. From both of those, I like it.
They also removed a lot of the crafting items and added gold as a new main currency. Gold is used for almost everything from buying from vendors, gambling, and trading with other players. Crafting items now drop like candy because it's a lot harder to craft the perfect item. For example, in the later acts, I had several exalted orbs, an item that basically never drops in the first game. They want you to actually use the crafting items this time around and not hoard them for trading. This is another change I'm a little mixed on because I'm worried how it'll affect the economy of the game, but time will tell. Now let's talk about the legendary skill tree of this game. It's just as insane and daunting as it's always been. But it's been streamlined that each class has their suggested weapon nodes nearby their starting area, so they don't have to path around the entire skill tree unless they want specific nodes. Additionally, they've removed life percent nodes almost entirely, making it much easier for a new player to just make a build and not fuck it up. They'll actually be able to survive most content without following a build guide, so that's actually really cool. The defense...
I am not following a build guide. Fuck that. Maybe in the future, after I have tried a lot the game, I already know stuff, and I want to try a build. Second. I don't know what happened in there, brother. And I want to try a build that someone else made that is looking insane, and I say, oh, I want to try that build because it looks really cool. Maybe then I just copy the build, right? But that is after I have tried like 10 builds of my own, brother. Because that is what I see. One of the coolest things in Path of Exile 2 is this trying crazy combinations and try to do your builds and your stuff, brother. So if you follow a build guide right from the start, it is like you are removing one big element of what makes Path of Exile fun, in my opinion. But everybody has fun how they have fun. I can't tell you how to have fun. But that is my opinion in terms of what is cool, right?
Defensive nodes now focus purely on armor, evasion, and energy shield. And speaking of defense, there's also block chance, but more than that, there's a dedicated block skill for builds of the shield that allows you to actively time your blocks and completely deflect some enemy attacks. It felt really good, but blocking too many attacks will raise your guard bar to full and give you a large stun. This is much more effective on the new WASD control scheme or on a controller, both of which I really enjoyed using, as it gave me more control over my character movement.
I normally, and I know I am in the minority in here, but I normally don't play WASD, but play with point and click, right? Like it was original in Diablo 4, like in Diablo 2 or whatever. But people are saying that the WSD in PoE 2 is insanely good, and you can attack while moving if you use WSD and all of that. So I will have to play WSD. I have a controller, but I don't think I will be using it. I think I will prefer the mouse, but I will go with WASD to try it out to see how it goes.
Now, after my play session, I got to personally ask Jonathan and Chris from Grinding Gear Games some questions about the sequel. I asked about PvP, to which they said it is not a focus at all for Path of Exile 2, which is personally a bit of a bummer, but it just couldn't get right in the first game. I asked them about switching to keyboard and mouse while playing on controller for easier menu and UI navigation on PC, and they said they're working on it.
Nice.
I asked them if they had any plans for adding an auction house like the console version of Path.
Please, brother, please. I know that they don't. I know the answer to this because I heard it, listened to it. I don't know in a previous interview, and they are not planning on adding an auction house. I hope that he surprises me in here and he says that they are going to add it, but to my knowledge, they are not going to do it. And I think one of the biggest things that both PoE 2 and Diablo 4 need is an auction house. In my opinion, it is stupid that you as a player that wants to trade have to go to a third-party website or to a Discord channel or whatever to trade, to find trades. It takes you out of the game. It is annoying, breaks immersion. It sucks. In WoW, having the auction house is so cool, brother. Just at the auction house, man. I don't see a drawback to having an auction house. I think there is just pure upsides to have an auction house. And even if you can come up with drawbacks, I am sure there are more pros than cons with having an auction house, brother. Let's see what he says. But I think they will say that they don't have plans for an auction house right now.
Exile 1. They said no, but they're adding in the currency exchange from the latest league in Path of Exile 1. I asked them about all of our macrotransactions carrying over from the first game, which they said they're trying their best to port them all over, but not all of them will be available at day one because they're going over each and every single one and updating them for Path of Exile 2, which is really cool. They also said your stash tabs will carry over from the first game as well. I thought that was really neat. Now, I want to talk about the end game because that was the main focus of their 2-hour presentation.
Yep,
they said this is the main focus of Path of Exile 2 and that it was incredibly important to get right. And my God, it showed. All of the systems were incredibly in-depth, and most of them will actually be familiar to you if you played the first one. Maps are making a return in the form of randomly generated paths. We can select which map to run and modify said maps with towers in the vicinity located around the paths. It's really hard to explain. It was like a really cool, like 3D sort of visualization of the map system. But know that mapping is making a return, along with most of the endgame league mechanics from the first game, including Breach, Delirium, Expedition, and more.
I don't know what any of those things are, but I am sure they are cool.
Now, inside of maps is where they said the hardest content and the true final boss of the game is located. They said it's going to be extremely difficult to get to and defeat. There are also 2 other endgame activities. One of them is based on Incursion, which now has an emphasis on a roguelike system, as you pick rooms and get deeper into the dungeon. Now, what I mean by roguelike is that you can actually pick between certain buffs and debuffs before you enter the next room, and it affects your entire run. And at the end of the run, it looks like things can get really, really dangerous and really psychotic, and it looks to be a lot of fun. The other in-game mechanic they sort of rushed through because the presentation is already over 2 hours, but it looked really sweet too. At the end, they showed off some really cool, unique skills tied to ascendancies. One of the skills, which was a necromancer skill that allows you to summon a hellhound that sets everything on fire around it.
That looks cool.
And another one was tied to the sorcerer ascendancy, which allowed them to turn into a demon that drains your health faster and faster the longer you stay in the form.
The sorceress is the one that converts to a demon. I thought that the witch was the one that converts to a demon, brother. Because sorcerers are for pussies, but I want to eventually play the thing that converts into a demon. I thought it was the witch, brother. Fuck sorcerers, dude.
So that's about everything. I had the time of my life at this event, and getting to play Path of Exile 2 early was a dream come true. I think that this game has potential to surpass the first game as the greatest ARPG of all time, and I cannot wait for early access on December 6th. Thank you again so much for watching, and be sure to subscribe for more Path of Exile 2.
Brother Oro, that was an insanely cool video. Thank you very much for your insight as someone who played the early build already and played the warrior, which is the class that I am going to probably start with. So that was an awesome video, brother. Thank you very much for that video. I loved it. This is the first video that I watched from Oro. I have never watched him before, but it was recommended to me again by a viewer that also creates videos. He has reacted a lot to my stuff, the DM's Corner. I love him. He's a brother and a friend of the channel. So check it out. Check him out if you want. But this video was awesome, Oro, and I look forward to watching more stuff from you in the future for sure.